I cannot wait to be in the room where it happens, meaning I can't wait to watch the Hamilton film. Of course, I had to make some fan art of the Schuyler Sisters, so I'm going to share a time-lapse video with you where I'll share some fun facts about the real Schuyler Sisters and the thought process behind my work. Angelica is up first. She's center frame, so the pose that I'm drawing her in is going to inform the positioning of Eliza and Peggy. I always try and keep my initial sketch super loose. I'm drawing on my iPad in PROCREATE, and I love using the dry ink brush that comes with PROCREATE. It can be found in the inking brushes. The purpose of this initial sketch is just to get the energy and the pose down. It's all about shape and gesture. I try to not get too sucked into the details. I love little details, so I like to save those as a treat for myself later in the drawing process. The Schuyler Sisters dresses are from the 18th century, and they include bustles and petticoats. The point of those to be making your waist look really teeny tiny, and your butt look big, and your hips look wide. It's basically the 18th century version of butt injections. I wanted to emphasize this and use that bustle to my advantage, so on all of the sisters, one of their hips is lower than the other to try and show the power pose that's happening underneath the skirt. Fun fact about the Schuyler Sisters is that there are two sisters, Cornelia and Catherine, who are not featured in the Broadway musical. A not so fun fact is that the Schuyler family were slave owners. They lived in upstate New York. So, this new outline that I've been drawing on top of the first sketch is to help me establish a little bit more detail and to basically help me clean up my art a bit more. I'll be using this as a guide for when I get to color. And I'm still keeping it pretty loose and gestural just because I want the picture to have the same energy and sass as the song and the characters. And now it's time to add color. This is always such a fun part of the process where the sketch is brought to life. There's this gorgeous Vogue photo shoot of the original Broadway cast, and the costumes are a little bit fancier than they are in the Broadway show, and they're so lovely, so those are the dresses that I'm referencing here. For color, I'm using the ink bleed brush that comes with PROCREATE. It's also found in those inking brushes. I'm using the black outline as a guide, but I'm not exactly married to it, and I'm changing little angles here and there. Did you know that Angelica was actually married with 2 toddlers before she even meets Alexander Hamilton? Kinda crazy. For these detail lines that I'm drawing, I'm just using a darker shade of whatever the color is. So for the yellow, I'm using a gold, and for the coral, I'm just using a dark coral. I've seen other artists use the exact same color and then just set the layer to multiply, which is another way that you can do it. What's nice about keeping these detail lines a shade darker is that it keeps us in the same simple color palette. Using fewer colors can make your piece simpler and more impactful. Okay, so the trick that I'm doing here is to add the idea of satin, and what I do is I take a really textural brush. In this case, it's one of the brushes from the On The Mark PROCREATE brushes. I'll link that below. And I like to use an off-white, and then I set it on overlay. You start to get some really interesting colors happening when you do that. I'd recommend not using a super white because you'll lose some of those interesting color variations. I like to save those bright whites for the sparkles to help keep everything feeling really sparkly and shiny at the end. So I have a limited amount of layers that I can use in PROCREATE. The larger your canvas size, the fewer layers you're allowed to include. My canvas here is 10 inches by 10 inches, and I'm limited to 55 layers. I'm drawing Eliza and Peggy on the same layers to save space. Did y'all know that it was Peggy, not Angelica, who was Alexander's confidant in romancing Eliza at that midwinter's ball in February of 1780? Actually, let's talk about how much cooler Peggy really was in real life. Her role in the musical is kind of a silly third-wheel character, but she was actually super witty, vivacious, and intelligent in real life. Even though Peggy in the musical kind of disappears after the first act, the same actor who plays Peggy also plays the role of Maria Reynolds, the woman Hamilton has an affair with, so it's kind of cool that she comes back and has a bit more stage time. I'm about to start drawing a plaid pattern on Peggy's dress. I like to keep my patterns really flat. I don't contour them to the shape of the dress. This helps give the art a bit more of a graphic, flat, cut paper look, which is what I'm trying to go for. Setting the layer style that the lines are on to multiply helps you to see some of the overlap happening between the vertical and horizontal lines. I love adding a little extra shine to the hair, and actually, if you want to learn how I do this, I have a tutorial on drawing shiny hair. I'll link it below. I love that the 3 sisters are wearing soft primaries. Angelica is wearing blush, which is a soft red, Eliza is wearing teal, which is a soft blue, and Peggy is wearing a buttery yellow rather than a cadmium yellow. Primary colors are such a great way to engage the viewer's eye, and the fact that the costume designer turned them into pastels is such a smart choice because pastels were really popular during this time and in fashion with the French Rococo art scene. Do y'all know that Eliza lived to be 97 years old? Hamilton died when she was 47, so she lived another 50 years after his death. I'm just adding a bit more texture and some extra sparkles, and we're pretty much done. I had so much fun drawing the Schuyler Sisters, and I super enjoyed learning a bit about their real lives outside of the musical. Doing a little research always helps me feel a connection to the characters that I'm drawing. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me to make more videos for you. You can follow my art journey on Instagram and shop my art prints on Etsy. Stay sparkly!